One of the fights on the undercard to Artur Beterbiev and Callum Smith was Christian Mbilli versus Rohan Murdock, right? But it wasn't really a fight, right? Hear me out. It wasn't really a fight. Now, but listen to what I got to say here. It was a showcase. That's all it was. It was a showcase event. It was a showcase for Christian Mbilli. And you know that by the fact that this man was a minus 2,000 favorite going in. Nobody was giving Murdock a chance to win this fight. This was all there for Mbilli just to come out on what was going to be probably the biggest stage of his career, right? Because you're fighting on the undercard of Beterbiev. It's the biggest stage of his career. It's a chance for you to just come out and make this showcase fight. But what caught my mind was something else. What caught my eye was the fact that as this man is making his ring walk, they're talking about how he hopes to put on a good performance so that he can get mentioned in a fight with Canelo. And it caught my ear. Canelo's a pretty popular guy, right? You don't have to be around the sport very long to hear the name Canelo mentioned. But for those of us who follow it, we hear it all the time. We always hear about who his next opponent's going to be. We always hear about who's in the wings, guys who want to fight him, guys who should fight him. Everybody talks about all the time how he should be getting a fight with David Benavidez, right? That's the one everybody wants to see. It's not necessarily going to be the next fight, but it's the fight that everybody wants to see. So they're talking about Christian Mbilli, how he potentially could get a fight, wants to get a fight, wants to get mentioned with the fight, whatever. I can't even believe the man's name's getting mentioned with Canelo, but here we are. Now it's hard to imagine that a guy who has zero significant wins on his resume is going to be potentially mentioned in a fight with Canelo, right? But, you know, the business of boxing, man, it's dirty. That's how things go. Sometimes people who deserve things don't get them. People who don't deserve things do get them. It's about favorites and favors and who can do what and who can generate the most money and a whole bunch of other things. And then you also realize that one of the things that they're talking about while this man is walking out to the ring is how the WBC and the WBA have this man ranked number one at super middleweight. Number one ranking at super middleweight. Now you have to understand, this is a division that also has David Benavidez, Caleb Plant, Demetrius Andrade. There is some talent at 168 pounds. How does a man with zero significant wins on his resume get this number one ranking? It's insane. It's ridiculous. You know, and it's not like looking at this dude, you think he really has a chance of beating Canelo. If we're being honest with each other, it's easy to look at him and see that he's a fan favorite fighter. He goes out there, man, he's swinging for the fences on everyone. He wants to do everything he can to load up on big shots and knock his opponent's head into the third row. I get it. People like that. You know, you go out there and you got some fast twitch muscle fibers, man. You're quick. You know how to get your shots off. You're super aggressive. You're coming forward all the time. The last thing in the world that you want to do is sit there for 10 rounds. Nobody's paying you for overtime. You want to go out there. You want to knock your man out and get it done as quick as possible. I get it. It's easy to talk about a guy like that in glowing terms. But let's be perfectly honest with each other. When we're watching this fight, when we're thinking about matching up against a guy like Canelo, this dude gets hit way too much. He squares up in front of his opponent all the time. He's constantly getting caught with shots. He's ridiculously aggressive to the point that a man like Canelo would be able to easily set him up for some huge counters. Okay, not to mention that, through 5 rounds, the dude landed 161 power punches. Don't you think he should have got his man out of there? Who was he fighting? This dude who's known for just having this ridiculous chin. He was fighting a guy that he was supposed to be ridiculously overmatched. How you landed 161 punches on him through 5 rounds and you can't even get your man out of there? But you're supposed to be fighting a guy like Canelo? You're in the post-fight interview talking about how that's the fight that you want? Come on, man. Look, when we talk about 2 ranking organizations in the WBC and the WBA ranking this man number one, this is what people are talking about when they talk about the corruption in boxing. Okay, now I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know exactly how this corruption takes place, the who, what, where's, and why. Sometimes it's really easy to see. Sometimes it's not so easy to see. One thing that we know for sure is that at the end of the day, it all comes down to money, right? So a situation like this, I mean, who knows what it could be, right? I mean, this guy's he's a top-ranked fighter. So maybe, you know, top ranks looking at this and they're thinking Canelo's only got a few fights left on it. You know, he's going to be, there's no way that Mbilli's going to get this fight, but eventually Canelo's going to, the belts that he has are going to get split up when he walks away. So we want our guy to be ranked number one in at least one of these major organizations so that he's guaranteed to get a shot at the belt. It'll be vacant or somebody else may hold it and that'll be an easier fight to Canelo. And at that point we can, you know, finagle our way into a fight. Maybe it's something along those lines. right? To me, that isn't that far-fetched. Who really knows? All I can say is this. All I know is this, man. When we look at the rankings at 168 pounds, there is not one intelligent person who's informed, who watches fights anywhere, who's going to turn around and say that that man should be ranked number one. It's just not going to happen. And I know that it seems like I'm just banging on this dude, man. Like I am just harassing him. I'm talking bad about him. I got nothing good to say. And that's really not the case, right? Because if I sit there and I watch this fight, there's a lot of good things to say. Yeah, he's got some flaws. Yeah, he's got some things he's got to work on. Will he cover those holes up? Will he eventually cover those flaws? Could he be talked about potentially as actually snatching up a world title one day at 168 pounds? I mean, maybe. One of the things we know for sure is there's all kinds of guys who's got all kinds of potential who never delivered on it. Maybe he'll just end up being a fan favorite fighter. And that's cool too, right? Maybe he'll end up getting a payday. That's kind of his niche. He's fought the vast majority of his fights in Canada. Maybe he stays up there and just makes a career like that. If he doesn't progress, if he doesn't polish up his skills and be able to compete. The reason I'm talking about him the way I am is because they're talking about this dude fighting Canelo. There's no way in the world that we should be talking about this guy fighting Canelo. We've seen what Canelo's done. Look at the resume that Canelo has. What exactly does he have to gain by fighting this guy? It's not a huge payday. It's not going to look good on his resume. It's not going to add to his historical legacy. There is a lot. There are a lot more worthy opponents out there for a man like Canelo than Mbilli. Imagine if he were to fight Mbilli while David Benavidez is still sitting on the sidelines, man. Like, oh, the fan base, the media, people would have a field day would do, man. They would tear into him. So, let me know what you guys think. Am I tearing into this too much? Am I reading into it the wrong way? But how are they going to come out there and talk about this dude fighting Canelo? So, let me know what you guys think. Also, let me know what did you think about the fight performance? I'm not saying the dude's a bum by any stretch of the imagination. I'm only saying we shouldn't be talking about him in a fight like this. Let me know what you guys think.